Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a stream is ending, season ending stream. This followed season led us into the wonderful world of two very fun games. We found them to be very fun, very different one from the other, mostly. No, not even that much. Well, anyways, we went into the wonderful world of Mario Party, and we went into the wonderful world of Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Not entirely sure at this point still if it is Tenkaichi or Tenkaichi. It's probably Tenkaichi because it is... well, Ichi is one, right? More on that later. Anyways, well, to do a small recap on the season that we just recorded, well, it was very fun to do. We never played any of the Mario Party franchise or any minigame based game, as far as I can remember, which represented quite a difficulty. But I think we managed at times to come through. The biggest problem with Mario Party, though, the first one, is that it depended so much on rotation of the controller stick, and that's fairly difficult to do on a keyboard. I found it to be very difficult on a keyboard. It was already difficult to do on the sticks themselves, but it definitely became worse doing it on a keyboard. So you will see many of our gameplays being far from ideal. Well, our channel and my gameplays and our whole game style is not focused mainly on being cutting edge proficiency. We try to do the best we can, but I know that at times we fall short on that department. I feel it because I used to play better, or at least more efficient. I feel that at times in many games I used to be more lethal, more proficient, more efficient, more depending on your particular success, keys for, or what's the word I'm looking for. I know it's KPI, but I don't remember what it translates to. But it's like the metrics you're using to measure success, right? Depending on the metrics that you use to measure success, you will find our streams to be better or worse, more fitting or less fitting, more enjoyable or less enjoyable in the long run, I would guess. But at the very least, I feel that our gameplay, in spite of not being as winning, as having as many winning streaks or trophies or prizes, it still has something good to show. It focuses more nowadays into a more cinematographic experience, or at least that's what we'd like to think we are doing. So we tend to do a lot of camera rotation and, zoom ins and focusing on the action, the story, etc. That is in theory, because in practice I actually went through the Budokai Tenkaichi video and I was a little let down by my own performance. Well, what little I was able to see, because I didn't see the whole video, but I was expecting to be very much more into the camera rotation, and instead there were long periods where I didn't even move it, or that I move it and turn it back. I wasn't very aware of that aspect, and I thought I was being aware of that aspect. So, well, it is sometimes happens, that you feel you're doing something, and when you see the recording, you notice that you weren't doing exactly what you thought you were. That's kind of bad in all aspects, but there's very little you can do about it, I would say, rather than just keep practicing and keep improving, right? Nevertheless, this particular game that we played, the Budokai Tenkaichi, we are it seems we won't be able to do more than this single recording that we're about to split into two, and therefore making progression based on our performance and the study of our previous activity is going to be more difficult, and well, it's not going to happen right away right now, because we are not going to be able to continue playing the game, right? As opposed as to what have happened on other games that we have played for a while and saw the videos, have seen the videos, and improve based on that, or at least I feel we have managed to improve based on that. To quote an example, I think we did that on Vampire Survivors, in which, to mention too, I noticed that we strafe a lot to the right, we dash to the right a lot, and very rarely to the left, which is something we did on specifically Vampire Survivors too. We used to at times walk on a single direction, using a single key or something. We then rarely change the direction, giving me a bit of a neck pain, a literal neck pain. I don't know, I feel that if I'm not like having a somewhat solid balance between the directions that we are facing, heading, moving in games, I feel I'm not doing the right job, the right thing, and it's something that we feel we focus our attention on in this channel. It's something that prides us, and I felt kind of bad seeing that we fell a little short, both in camera movement as well as in character movement in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. It was a rather sad occurrence, but overall I don't think it was that bad. We still kept some of the things that we follow here strictly, more or less strictly, which is randomization of characters. We like to play every and any character that we can find on a game, regardless of how powerful or weak it may be considered. For this particular game, we found that the power shift between characters could end up being very, very big, the power gap. Yet that didn't bother us in the slightest. We actually found it to be a more of a challenge to try to do it. But the game doesn't lack challenge to begin with, so we were fairly unable to even hold our ground against what was supposed to be the easiest computer player, opting us instead to go into the playing both controllers at the same time. We didn't see that footage, but I hope it's still good. It's good still. In Mario Party, a similar story in which the computer was simply just steamrolling us, although the game at times, or the overall score, still ended up being somewhat balanced when playing against a computer. If you ask my personal opinion, I felt that we were being, for the most part, steamrolling these mini games and in this game mode against the computers. Something that I don't recall happening that badly when we played in the actual console many years ago. But then again, nostalgia and memory could be a betrayal, could be betraying you. But let's just assume that the game actually hasn't become more difficult throughout the years, and that instead we have been becoming less able at it. And also the fact that we were using a keyboard, as mentioned, rather than a controller, could potentially make a considerable difference. But anyways, we played both of the games, trying to control the whole board, to say the greatest extent. As far as the greatest extent, we played Mario Party using 4 controllers, which, as you may imagine, is not any easy in the first place, especially if you're not even that proficient with a single controller. Well, I shouldn't be using the word controller here. It's obviously, as mentioned, not controls, but rather keyboard. So we managed to map all the input, the controller input for each of the characters into around 30 or so keys of our keyboard, and it ended up being as difficult as you may imagine it to be, especially for a person that has I don't recall having ever tried that many characters at the same time. Well, the results are a little stagnant. We haven't seen the Mario Party videos yet, but we felt that the gameplay was a little slow at times. It felt sometimes as a turn-based game rather than an instant action kind of game. Hopefully it wasn't that bad. Hopefully we're being a little harsh on ourselves rather than actually not having been able to provide in its entirety. But I feel that with more practice, definitely better results can be obtained. The problem being that since we are in such a rush, said practice was not possible to be done, and still I don't think that practice that I'm mentioning can be achieved in one day. It could take no less than a handful of sessions to be able to properly get acquainted with the controllers, and being proficient at it is even more so. So I wouldn't. I would be very surprised if we could have made our performance better in such short notice. The exact same phrase goes for Budokai Tenkaichi. We believe that, well, actually everything applies to Budokai Tenkaichi, because the amount of keys that we needed to map was almost the same, only for 2 character fighting. But we also map around 30 keys, and we had to control and more or less try to do combinations with them, which was a little even more difficult than Mario Party, because Mario Party, well, even though in Mario Party you had to be aware of 4 characters at the same time, in Budokai Tenkaichi you needed to do key combinations by pressing 2 or more keys at the same time, which for anybody that has played a piano in the past, they could attest that is something that requires a lot of coordination and a lot of practice, both things that we lack of but I'm hoping that, as I mentioned, we are being a little harsher on ourselves than we should, and that the product is still not as bad as we think it was, yet it wasn't as good as it could have been. And it is noticeable that when we play single player, it is a far better performance in terms of efficiency, though not that much either, because I noticed that the computer just had a lot of fun spamming powers on us when we were playing wrongly most of the time. Yeah, so we mentioned on the stream that we most of the times deserve having those spams being done on us, those locks, that locking made on us. We saw some of the computer versus computer gameplay, and we tried learning a little bit from it too. We noticed that they give a little more pause between a set of actions and another, whereas we were a little more into constant action, which may have turned the computer against us and have it continuously beat us or win against us the duels, even though it was supposed to be like the easiest difficulty, or rather it should have probably been like a little more lenient on our performance. But anyways, the fact that remains that we could have done better. There's not a lot of excuses, because we have played similar games, even though perhaps not in the similar perspective or controllers, but we should have applied some of the knowledge that we have for other similar games into these ones. We may have failed at times to do so. Hopefully, though, it wasn't as bad as I'm mentioning. and hopefully we are able to further improve our experience points in that matter, in that regard, and that we are able to in the future provide for an even better content. Well, without further ado, I believe we will be leaving you now. Hopefully the season wasn't that bad and it was fairly enjoyable still. We shall continue in a short moment, in a short notice, because we are still trying to do as fast as possible a couple of seasons so we can have some small pause between the Sino Alice recordings that we have, right? A couple of content shuffle in between. And our next plan, our next season will be following a more or less similar scheme to this one. So hopefully it can be done even better. Well, without anything else to add at the moment, I bid you farewell. I thank you as usual for following us along on the channel and our current development. And we will talk to each other later. So thanks once again, and may you have a wonderful time. Bye now.